Welcome to the Welcome Center. The Welcome Center is the first place that we welcome guests into Women's Lunch Place, so we wanted to make it the first place you see in the program today for spaghetti dinner. The Welcome Center is an information hub for our guests here at Women's Lunch Place. This is where they can sign up for showers, laundry appointments, grab their toiletries, towels, and also collect their mail. So we collect all mail for guests, and they can use 67 Newbury as their permanent address. This is extremely important because if you don't have a mailing address, you can't keep up with a lot of different communications, such as housing mail, healthcare forms, benefits information. Without Women's Lunch Place collecting this mail, a lot of our guests wouldn't have a safe and secure place to receive these messages. Those are just a couple of reasons that the Welcome Center is an important place for our guests here at Women's Lunch Place. We also have dedicated volunteers that staff the Welcome Center daily, help to keep things organized, sort the mail, pass out toiletries to the guests, and help our direct care staff with whatever they might need that day. And now that we've welcomed you to the Welcome Center, I'd love to pass things over to Mary Carty, the chair of the Board of Directors at Women's Lunch Place.
Hello and welcome to Spaghetti Dinner. My name is Mary Carty, and as chair of the Board of Directors for the Women's Lunch Place, it's my pleasure to welcome you to our signature fundraising event. Whether you're watching from home or with a group, I hope that you'll leave tonight with a new understanding of the work that we do and the great strides that our community has made over the past year. Tonight, our goal is to raise over $500,000 to support Women's Lunch Place mission. Just by being here, you're helping us care for the vulnerable women that we serve and making a real impact in their lives. Throughout the event, there will be opportunities to go above and beyond the commitment that you've already made by purchasing your ticket. Whether you're bidding on an exclusive item in the auction or funding a critical need at the shelter, every gift pushes us closer to our goal. And now, I'm honored to introduce Women's Lunch Place's Executive Director, Jennifer Hanlon Wigan, who will give you a preview of what you're about to see. Thank you for joining us and enjoy the evening.
Hello, I'm Jennifer Hanlon Wigan, the Executive Director of Women's Lunch Place. We are a day shelter and advocacy center for women experiencing hunger, homelessness, and poverty in the heart of Boston. I welcome you to the Spaghetti Dinner 2021. It's a critical fundraiser for us, and I'm so glad you're able to join us here this evening. We are so pleased to present our honoree this evening, Sanofi Genzyme. They are a major corporate benefactor of Women's Lunch Place, and we have critical mission alignment in that we address vulnerable communities. They, like us, walk with their clients through their health journeys. They also are incredibly supportive in terms of their management skills. We have Jennifer Colhane, who serves on our board of directors, and Shannon Resitic, who serves on our advisory committee. We're grateful for their support and their leadership as a corporate citizen of the city of Boston. This past year for Women's Lunch Place, as for many of you this evening, has been a bit of a struggle, but we have emerged stronger. We've increased our services and our partnerships and collaborations across the city. We housed 57 women from homelessness, and we've served over 100,000 meals. Our advocacy services in just the first 2 months of this fiscal year are up 48% for women seeking assistance with housing. And we are meeting those needs with critical new capacity in staffing and in our clinical intern program, which we've established over the past year. In this evening's program, you'll get an inside look at the shelter at 67 Newbury Street. You'll see the critical services we provide in healthy meals, direct care, and advocacy. We're also pleased to present a profile of tonight's honoree, Sanofi Genzyme. And finally, you'll hear directly from one of our guests about the journey that she's taken partnering with the staff to ensure a better future for herself and her family. I thank you all for joining us here this evening. We couldn't do this work without you, and I hope you enjoy the program.
Hey, Rachel. So good to see you
Jennifer.
again.
How you doing?
I'm great. Thanks so much for joining me. Let's jump right in, shall we?
Absolutely. Sounds good.
Great. At Sanofi Genzyme, a large part of our work focuses on patient populations that are often overlooked. Women's Lunch Place does the same, welcoming all vulnerable women. So, Rachel, can you tell us about the Women's Lunch Place philosophy and why it's so important?
Absolutely. So we try to keep our philosophy really simple. We just treat everyone with dignity and respect. Anyone who identifies as a woman is welcome to come in. And that's really our only requirement. We don't have any, burdensome intake process. We do know most of our ladies, but they don't even have to share their name if they don't want to. We try to just be as, welcoming and have as few barriers as possible to coming in and getting services.
You just mentioned low barriers to service. Can you elaborate a bit more on why focusing on maintaining low barriers for services at the shelter is critical?
Yeah, absolutely. At the end of the day, we want to serve as many women as possible with the greatest care as possible. We're seeing so many women who are experiencing so many struggles, whether it's mental illness, physical illness, substance use, domestic violence, a trauma history. There's so many different things that folks are dealing with that we don't want to have any extra barriers that are unnecessary for getting folks in the door and getting services. Again, this is a really vulnerable population, most of whom have fallen through so many cracks that we just want to be there to help out as best we can.
And you and your team definitely play a pivotal role in that. So tell me a bit more about how Direct Care's work supports healthy meals and advocacy and all of the other programs at Women's Lunch Place. And maybe if you can squeeze it in, what's your larger role within the shelter?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. We all work really closely together. My role is the shelter manager. I'm a social worker and I oversee the direct care team. We always joke that the direct care team is pretty much the welcoming committee for everyone who comes in the door, greet everyone with a smile, see what it is that they need for the day. For some folks, that's really just a cup of coffee, maybe a hot shower. We provide lots of different services. Really, we're just trying to hit those basic needs. And we always say if somebody comes in and they're hungry, they're thinking about food. If you're not sure where you're going to sleep that night, you're thinking about a bed. And so that's where the work always has to begin. Once those basic needs are met, we work really closely with all the other departments, particularly advocacy, to see what other needs there are, how we can help move folks on. So really, it's just where everything begins. Because again, until those basic needs are met, it's really hard to focus on moving forward in other ways.
And with COVID and the ever-changing environment, are you seeing anything right now that might affect your work in the next year? And if so, how is your team preparing?
Yeah, we're definitely trying to prepare for that. We've seen such an increase. I guess the first two things that come to mind would be food insecurity, housing destabilization. We've seen a lot more women coming and seeking services, particularly around those two issues. We've started a triage process now where the direct care team does more, asking questions. Oh, what brings you in today? Still not, that traditional intake model, but really trying to guide folks in the right direction. I supervise the clinical internship program, which is primarily social work students. And so we've brought on 4 clinical interns this year. They're also going to be able to help us work with the women and, again, just help more people who are coming in. So really, it's just a combination of, scaling up the staff, bringing on clinical interns, and then working on, the issues that are bringing our guests in the first place. But there's definitely been a lot of changes going on this year.
And I think we'll continue. Well, thank you
Absolutely.
so much, Rachel, for your time. I really appreciate it. I hope I get to
Well,
see
thank
you
you so
soon.
much. No, it was my
Hey.
pleasure.
Take
Thank you
care.
very much.
Hi, Sherry. Great to see you today. How are you?
I'm really well. Thank you, Shannon. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I'm really
Great.
looking forward to chatting with you.
Thank you.
So, I have a couple questions for you, if that's okay. The first question is, in thinking about the similarities between Sanofi Genzyme and Women's Lunch Place, one thing that's really interesting is that both organizations serve people who have chronic long-term health conditions. How do you take that into consideration in the work that you do for WLP?
Well, we recognize that food is medicine. So we know that when our ladies are able to eat nutritious, delicious food, everything is better. They feel better, they're less stressed, but it helps their general health in in particular, so that they can achieve more in the long run.
Absolutely. I've had the privilege of seeing that firsthand, and it's remarkable to see the impact that the food does have on the guests that you serve in so many profound ways. When you design the menus, how do you ensure that you're providing the right and appropriate ingredients to your guests that you aim to serve?
We don't have a formula, but we always try and serve lean protein, lots of fresh vegetables and fruit, and whole grains. We're fortunate because we partner with the Greater Boston Food Bank, Lovin' Spoonfuls, Iggy's Bread, for example, and we're able to derive a lot of donations and food through them that helps us with those menus. I particularly start with the protein and I go from there and I rotate our proteins. We have fish twice a week. Quite often that's fresh fish, which our ladies love. And you eat with our eyes first, so our ladies are excited to eat that food.
Speaking of the partnerships that you have and all of the different ways you source your ingredients, how do you approach stocking your kitchen with such a wide variety of these ingredients?
Well, it's a little bit of a puzzle that we put together every week, to be honest with you. We are able to order food from the Greater Boston Food Bank, as I said, and we have donations from Lovin' Spoonfuls. We also have the West Church that they have what's called a food forest, and they have fruits and vegetables and lots of herbs, and they donate. So we get our plate together based on a lot of different flavors. Sometimes I'm amazed, but it all actually really does come together pretty well.
Yes, the care and thought that you put into every meal is remarkable. Have there been any new menu items that have been a particular hit with your guests?
Well, we've continued to evolve over the years, and in the last year and a half in general, we've tried to be careful about what our portions look like. So we follow the plate from the Harvard School of Public Health so that we know exactly how much we're putting on the plate. So, for example, when we're serving whole grains, sometimes they're a little bit of a tough sell. But if you use vegetable broth and lots of herbs and things like that when you cook them, they are amazing. One of the things that we made recently that the ladies really loved, and I was probably the most surprised, we made a vegetarian hash. It's actually a vegan hash, and we serve it for breakfast. It has carrots and potatoes, and we add all kinds of different things. Sometimes we have leeks, we use kale, and kale is often kind of a hard sell. We put in some protein in the form of chickpeas, and we cook it the day before, and then the morning of, we put it on a sheet tray, put it in the oven, and crisp it up. The ladies absolutely love it.
That's truly remarkable. Thank you for sharing all this wonderful information with me and for the work that you do for WLP every day. You're an inspiration. The organization is an inspiration to those of us who live and work in the Boston area.
Thank you so much, Shannon.
My name is Pam Alexander, and I am a member here of the Church of Christ in Roxbury. And we have had an amazing opportunity to participate with the Women's Lunch Place to give out the most amazing food that so many have just thought it was fantastic and delicious. We have quite a few people in our community that are still in need after the pandemic. I mean, we're kind of like some of, in terms of socioeconomic backgrounds, there's some people who are just, barely making the poverty line. And yet, even in that, you still see a lot of people who still are striving to make it. And so one of the things that we find here is that food should not be something that anyone should struggle to have, clothing or shelter. And so our community, we have a couple of shelters that we deliver to as well, and they are really thankful for the food that they are receiving from us and the Women's Lunch Place.
Sanofi Genzyme is one of the largest life sciences employers in the Commonwealth with almost 4,000 employees. We focus on very difficult to treat diseases, everything from rare diseases to rare blood disorders, oncology, immunology, and multiple sclerosis. We've been in the community for years, and the way we think about a community is we have to be part of the surrounding community that we work in. For more than 30 years, we have been a part of servicing and working with over 90 community organizations in the greater Boston area. And we have been honored to have a partnership with Women's Lunch Place since 2008. And we're proud of the exceptional work that this organization does, providing a safe, judgment-free community for women battling the obstacles that accompanies poverty. This is unfortunate that an organization like this is needed, but thank goodness that there is an organization like this, and we are proud to be such longtime partners.
The past several years, as I have had the privilege of serving on the advisory committee and becoming involved in the work of WLP, it's been really special to see the two organizations have so many similarities in mission, in support of underserved populations, and some of the pillars of how both organizations go about doing their work are also similar. And two pillars in particular that I focus on every day at Sanofi Genzyme that has opened my perspective more, having been involved in WLP, are around advocacy and comprehensive support services. So related to advocacy, both organizations were seeking to give our populations a voice, helping to raise awareness of needs and issues, trying to garner additional support from multiple stakeholders. And related to comprehensive support services, these are complex challenges that both populations face that require comprehensive programs. We focus similarly on multiple areas of support, education, assistance. So seeing the work of WLP has absolutely given me new ideas and broader perspective that I have directly infused into the work that I do for Sanofi Genzyme, particularly in advocacy and comprehensive services.
The connection to Women's Lunch Place is special for me personally too. As my mother, who I lost to substance abuse in my early 30s, she instilled in me from a very young age the importance of serving. And my earliest volunteering experiences were actually with her at a homeless shelter for pregnant women in Connecticut. So for all of these reasons, I jumped at the chance to serve on the board in 2019 when I was offered the opportunity. I cannot be more impressed with the quality and the dedication of the board and the Women's Lunch Place leadership, and I've been blown away by the response and impact Women's Lunch Place has made definitely over the last 18 months, with COVID stretching and challenging in ways no one thought possible. But at every opportunity, Women's Lunch Place is meeting those challenges and really takes it beyond. So my experience on the board has allowed me not only to support this great work, but also enables me to connect to my neighborhood and my community in a deeper and more direct way.
Part of the kind of the thread that runs across everything that we do in corporate social responsibility is kind of this emphasis on increasing equity in all that we do. And even further than that, to be focusing more on marginalized populations and wherever they show up in our community. I think Women's Lunch Place is an example of kind of touching this full ecosystem of, this equity lens on the population that you all serve, which is primarily women and children and those that touch their families. And what you do so well, like by providing such respect, by providing health equity through the food that you provide, by enabling and activating lives and careers and problem solving, helping the women to problem solve in all areas of their life. We support you all because what you do and how you show up in the community and the clients that you serve is truly best in class. So by supporting you, by partnering with you, it makes us better. It makes it, we learn from you all in terms of how we want to approach our business, how we want to approach our patients, the kind of leaders that we're attempting to be in the community. So that's why we support you, because of the impact that you all are making and the quality of your work. So just thank you. Thank you for being that to us, and thank you for being that to so many of your clients over the years.
My name is Anna, and my family and I have 3 kids. They're Amadi's, she's 9, Daniel's 7, Isaias he's 10, and my mom, I've been taking care of her since I'm 17. And they're the reason why I push forward. And sorry, we were going through a lot of stuff. My kids have gone through a lot of changes, so my mom has too. My husband left, and finances were getting kind of hard. My father passed away in February. We ended up all having COVID, and he passed away. And then lastly, we had a house fire. And I felt like all the finances were going downhill. I'm trying to provide something now. I was staying with my sister for a little bit, but I could no longer stay there. Her landlord felt it was too much liability, and she's a single mom, which I understand. It was hard for my sister, but then I was staying with a coworker, but they let us spend the night because he was kind of in the same situation with the leasing, with housing, you know. But then after that, I started paying for a hotel, but the money would just go so quickly, like it's like peak season. And then we checked at the hotel, and I was looking for some assistance, but I didn't know where to go. So we ended up being at the park here at the Boston Public Gardens, and it was hot, so, you know, the kids, they don't know much. I just let them play in the water pond while I try to make calls and things like that. There was somebody that I knew that told me, go to the women's lunch place and I'll take you on tomorrow. And she brought me here, and that's when I bumped into Amani. And I brought my documents that she worked hard. She was calling places, and because my mom, I can't separate from her because she has schizophrenia, and I just couldn't. I couldn't leave her to go to another shelter when I know she needed to be supervised. So it was a little complicated. And Amani tried so hard, and she made me call this other places. And then finally, when I spoke with Noah, they started giving us a hotel to stay at. And I remember it was like some relief that I had, that we at least had somewhere to go. And I know it was because she made it as, you know, that determination that she didn't give up. She could have said, they already said no so many times, but she kept trying. And it felt so good to come here sometimes every day, because we would have to check out every day from the hotel to see if they would extend us a day. And then I would come here, and it felt like I felt so safe here, in the sense that, you know, like I had shelter, we had food to eat, the kids did, my mom, and everybody was so helpful. Like even when Amani wasn't here, whether it was Chris or Doris, Nana, which I personally got to interact the most, or the staff of the kitchen. Everybody, I feel like they gave their heart out in whatever they do, whether it's cooking or just whatever they could assist with. And Doris, she was so on top of, trying to helping me. Like, I would call, she would also look for me to see if there was any housing. And she would call Boston Metro to try to speed up the stuff, or whoever she needed a contact to help assist. And now I feel so blessed. I have now this apartment. I could not be more blessed than anything else. And I thank God that He brought me here and to meet these beautiful people that had helped me in this journey to be more stable.
My name is Doris Romero. I'm one of the advocates with the Women's Lunch Place. And as you've seen in the video, I was one of the advocates that worked with Anna, and I work with guests like Anna year-round. So when a guest like Anna gets housed, the work definitely doesn't stop there. Stabilization during the first 6 months is the most critical. During this time, we're connecting them to community. And this entails referrals to community partners like medical providers and mental health providers. It entails walking with them, taking the bus and train, and showing them around in their neighborhood. So they know where the supermarket is, where the pharmacy is, where the post office is. We're also connecting them with technology by showing them how to use a smartphone, and being able to, and helping them in setting up, their telehealth appointments. And so this is why all of these things are so important for our ladies to be stably housed. And this is why we're asking for $10,000 for a year of stabilization for 10 women. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sarah. I'm an advocate at Women's Lunch Place. An overwhelming number of our clients experience intimate and domestic partner violence. We help them safety plan, we help them safely leave, move forward, and heal. This changes everything about a woman's life, and when we allow for a move, when we help increase their sense of stability and well-being, the changes are incredible. So that's why we are asking for $5,000 to help 2 families leave intimate and domestic partner violence. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Chris Tyler, and I'm an advocate for Women's Lunch Place. The women that we often serve will go into rental arrears due to job loss and unexpected circumstances. This pandemic being an example, which I'm sure we all can relate, that normalcy has changed, or our old normal is now a new normal. So it's very important that rental arrears don't become a normal for our clients, and we help keep them on track, which is why we're asking for $1,000 to fund payments for 2 clients. Thank you.
My name is Allegra Mara, and I work with all of our wonderful volunteers here at Women's Lunch Place. And one of the main places that volunteers work is here in our kitchen. So every day we prepare breakfast and lunch for all of our guests, and volunteers help to make all of those meals, cutting up the veggies, plating up the meals, and serving them to our guests. All of our meals here at Women's Lunch Place are healthy, nutritious, prepared with a lot of love, and we would love your support in this program. So for $300, you can provide a day's worth of breakfast for our guests, and $500 will be a day's worth of healthy lunches for all of our ladies here at Women's Lunch Place. Thank you so much for your support.
The year ahead for a woman in Boston who's homeless will be a challenge, but there are 3 critical areas that Women's Lunch Place can assist our guests in overcoming barriers. food insecurity, housing instability, and importantly, mental health. I'm grateful to have you all as stakeholders in the Women's Lunch Place community to partner with us as we tackle the work in the year ahead. To meet the increased demand for our services over the coming year, we're building capacity. We're making staff hires, and we're building out our clinical intern program, which we established over the past year. In addition, we're building our partnerships and collaborations across the city. We're very grateful for our partnership with Boston Healthcare for the Homeless program, and they are on site 5 days a week. We've been able to offer breast cancer and lung cancer screenings, as well as flu and COVID vaccine clinics. They provide critical physical and mental health support to our guests. In addition, we partnered with Pine Street Inn and St. Francis House in providing services at an auxiliary shelter during the pandemic. We provided housing and housing search and stabilization efforts for the women at that shelter. We will continue to build out partnerships across the city to meet the critical needs of our guests. I'm also very pleased that we have just completed a strategic planning process. It was unanimously approved by the board, and it will set the stage for us over the next 3 to 5 years. The effort in this plan was to be more proactive, to get ahead of women falling into critical crises. We will increase partnerships in housing, in hospitals, and our wellness program will be more unified. We also spent some time refining our mission and vision, with a focus not so much on what we do, but why we do it. We have a unique service model, one in which we partner with our guests and give them agency to overcome the barriers that they face. We're grateful to have each of you in the community of Women's Lunch Place. Thank you for being here this evening. Thank you to Sanofi Genzyme, to our volunteers, to our donors, to our incredible staff, to the guests that walk with us every day.